ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I know you're getting a lot of videos from me this week. So we got the news, as I kind of knew this was gonna happen. The Wolverine announcement has been made this week. We now know who the creative team is on the book, and it's going to be none other than Saladin Ahmed, who is also writing Daredevil right now, prior to Cody Ziegler taking over Miles Morales Spider-Man. Saladin was also writing the Miles Morales Spider-Man series prior, and is a very solid writer. I like their stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and say I love every single thing they do, but I usually more often than not enjoy what they write. Also very much enjoying their current Daredevil right now. Barton Cocolo, also fantastic. If I'm not mistaken, has also been handling art duties over on the Immortal 4 side of things with Al Ewing, so very familiar with their work. I'm very excited to see what they have cooking for this, because I mean, if I gotta admit, of all of the titles that were announced, Wolverine was probably the one I was the least interested in, as far as like all 9 titles that have been revealed thus far. You know, Adjectiveless X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Exceptional X-Men, NYX, Phoenix, X-Force, and X-Factor, you know, Storm. So like, of all those titles, Wolverine was the one I was like, more Wolverine, yay. So we know this was going to be dropping on September 11th. Weird day to do that. But yeah, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, this one, there's some very interesting little blurbs, you know, coming out about this. I mean, you know, Wolverine is still in kind of a slightly different version of the classic blue and yellow costume. It's kind of the same costume, but not really the original costume. It's close. It's very close, but you can kind of notice some little vague, subtle differences in it. So I mean, I'm here for it. I'll rock with it, you know, or as they say,
I'd buy that for $1.
But what I like about this is when we get the setup here, it says that as Nightcrawler struggles to remind Logan that he's part of a family, Logan's exile is violently disturbed by his most hated foes, and with each battle, a new existential threat gathers strength. This ancient villain has been bubbling under the surface of the Marvel Universe since the days of myth, and once unleashed, will dramatically alter the scope of Wolverine's storied history and force him to prove himself a hero like never before. That's a pretty loaded one. I mean, you take a look at that just, and once again, I'm kind of reading all this, you know, off as I haven't pre-read any of this outside of, you know, the who's writing, who's, you know, on art. You know, he has a lot of foes, namely characters like Sabretooth, but you also can't forget characters like Romulus. We can also see characters like Lady Deathstrike. That would be another one that would seem kind of like a layup. You also can't forget his more recent, I guess, rival slash nemesis, Solem, who was introduced in the Krakoan era. You also can't forget about characters like, I mean, technically Mystique has kind of been an off and on villain of his, you know, in the past. There's a lot of different characters you could probably pull out of a hat that Wolverine would have to deal with in this case. Hell, the Hulk could even be one of them if you really want to get technical. You know, who knows? We'll have to kind of wait and see how that all plays out. But going a little bit deeper into it, the more official blurb says, there's a killer in the woods, and as Wolverine's attempt at peace is shattered, an old enemy will emerge as a new villain rises that will bring Logan to the brink of his berserker rage. But Nightcrawler knows his old friend is capable of doing what's right, and before long, Logan will have to unleash his claws, push his healing factor to the limit, and demonstrate he's the best there is at what he does once and for all. Nice be damned. Note to collectors, the new series kicks off with a key first appearance and a major addition to the lore of Wolverine. So whatever this new entity is, this new character that Wolverine is going to have to put up with, this is clearly a brand spanking new character. Key issue, for those who are the uninitiated, key issue basically is usually a nice shorthand way to say that either something very specific or could potentially be iconic is happening in this, that's going to make this issue a collector's item, or you know, some kind of key point in the story that is just going to be something you have to have, or which is more commonly is the case, is a first appearance of a character and will very likely maybe possibly be worth something somewhere down the road if you care about that sort of thing. The more I read about this, the more it kind of slick reminds me of what they did with Romulus. Like, when Romulus came into play, for those that don't know who I'm talking about, Romulus was a character who was retconned into Wolverine's past as this manipulative mastermind, almost like uber Sabretooth on steroids, and was supposed to be the guy that had been hounding Wolverine for decades and was responsible for a lot of the terrible things that ultimately happened to Logan over the course of his life. While I feel like Romulus was one of those storylines that just didn't make a whole lot of sense, I actually did not like the way he was implemented. It was one of the dumbest things I think I have ever been privy to when it comes to X-Men related like side story bullshit. It was one of those situations where I thought, like, it wasn't that I thought the character was dumb, I just thought how they used him was dumb. It's very similar to how I feel about characters like Onslaught. It's not that I hate Onslaught as a character. I think the way that Onslaught is handled is dumb, and that's what I felt for Romulus. That said, I personally don't have any real skin in the game on this, but I will go a little bit deeper into the press release for this. It does say that just in time for the character's 50th anniversary, the Wolverine legend begins anew. Following Krakoa's tragic fall and the brutal Sabretooth War storyline currently unfolding in the final issues of Benjamin Percy's Wolverine run, Logan will turn his back on humanity, mutant kind, and the X-Men in an all-new ongoing Wolverine series by acclaimed writer Saladin Ahmed and Marvel Stormbreaker artist Martin Coccolo. So once again, we're kind of back there with the self-imposed exile, which means he probably does unalive Charles Xavier in the upcoming X-Men number 35, which has actually X-Men number 700 issue. So that is very likely going to be a thing. Yeah, it's going to be something pretty damn wild in my opinion. But yeah, this is a self-imposed exile. He is not wanting to have anything to do with anybody. Doesn't matter who it is, which I think is pretty kind of on brand for Wolverine, but Wolverine does like to keep at least somebody around, which I guess it makes sense. Nightcrawler would be one of the few. Who else would be able to pester Wolverine on the regular without getting stabbed to death? So yeah, it would be Nightcrawler if no one else. But they say that Ahmed and Coccolo's new run begins deep in the Canadian wilderness, where Wolverine reunites with his wolf pack and embraces the beast within. But Wolverine's more than an animal. He's a soldier, and a new war is brewing. Like, honestly, this reminds me of an anniversary season of like a Kamen Rider or Super Sentai. This is what I kind of feel. And if you're not familiar with what that means, ever so often in Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, these are tokusatsu shows that over here in the States, Super Sentai is what Power Rangers has used a lot to create its shows, and Kamen Rider is what has been used to create the much maligned Masked Rider series and Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, which was an infinitely better show. But ultimately what that means is an anniversary season means you're going to be spending a lot of time kind of taking a trip down memory lane. They did this, probably one of the more famous Super Sentai ones was Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger, which basically was just a run straight down the line of all the greatest hits of Super Sentai for the past, at the time, 35 years. So they were bringing back all of the actors from the previous shows and characters and arcs and whatnot. They did the same thing with Kamen Rider Zeo, where they were running back through all the history of Kamen Rider, all the way back to the very beginning of the Heisei era, and in some respects even had some minor nods to some of the Showa era stuff. But yeah, that's what I kind of mean by that. And I feel like that's what this Wolverine series is going to be. It's going to basically be going down the greatest hits of everything we have known about Wolverine, revisiting all of those big plot points. We'll see him tango with Omega Red. We'll see him mess around with Sabretooth, most likely. We'll see Romulus somewhere in there, maybe, possibly. Maybe even Maverick, because Maverick has kind of become an enemy of Wolverine as of late. But more like an on and off again enemy. Yeah, we'll probably see that. We'll see lots of other characters we probably aren't even thinking about right now all pop up in the series in some way, shape, form, or fashion, on top of there being a new villain. So once again, like I said, it's not the one I'm the most excited for. Like, if anything, it is definitely dead ass last in terms of excitement for me, but that doesn't mean I don't want to read it. It's just that, yeah, it's just more Wolverine, and I'm okay with that. Like, honestly, Wolverine to me is kind of like, how I view characters like Superman and Batman nowadays. I'm like, yeah, just more Batman. More Superman. It's not a bad thing, but it's just, you know, you kind of already know what to expect. Once again, I know there's gonna be people that are gonna be trying to figure out who the villain is, but I feel like, yeah, if they're making it a case to say this is a key issue, this isn't somebody that you've already seen before. I mean, if it is, it would be a really weird way to do that. Like, I don't think they're gonna Arkham Knight us on this one, if you know what that means. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that. I'm very much in the camp of let them cook. You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.